Happy 99th Facebook Live Wednesday. Today's topic is near and dear to my heart because I learned the hard way, guys. I have a soon-to-be 26-year-old daughter, and my youngest at age 20 just celebrated her 20th birthday this past Sunday. She's in California, and I'm realizing I am still reminding her, or just, when you do those gentle reminders like, don't you have your class tomorrow? Because she's still doing her online classes, right, while in California. So I thought, what better topic than to share what is the most healthiest role to play in your child's life regarding academics. And it is a tough one because a lot of us, most of the parents want the best for our children, right? We want them to succeed. We want them to be happy. We want them to be organized and, just effective, but also, practice time management. Hey, Winston. And just know, what is too much and what might be, too hands off. So as a mom, of two adult daughters, and as an educator for nearly 30 years, I've made these mistakes, and I witness parents who maybe care, they care so much, but they don't trust, right? They're fearful that maybe their children won't turn in their work on time. They fear that they might miss a deadline or may not put their best effort. They double check their work. They're overly involved. I've had parents email teachers in high school, and one parent emailed a college professor. Yes. So we need to know what healthy boundaries, because we do want to support, we do want to praise, and we do want to create a love for learning. Really listen to that. A love for learning, not a hatred for learning. Because when these kids are too stressed, kids, their brains are still growing. And when we put too much pressure, I remember the saddest story of one of my classmates is that he committed suicide because in his freshman year of college because of stress. I know that my dad took total responsibility when I tried to take my life at age 31. And it was not due to academic stress, but he blamed himself and told one of my friends that he didn't teach me to lose. And I'm not talking about, losing games, losing, in life we do that, but it's also embracing the mistakes, embracing the bad grades, and really not judging what the outcome is. So suppose your child works really hard and gets a C or a B. I have some parents who take their phone, their teens lose their phone if they get a C. And what you're doing, I know what your intention is because I did that. But you are connecting the outcome to their worth. So I had a student who's now 30. At the time, Facebook was really popular. We didn't have Instagram and TikTok and everything like that. But she would be rewarded with Facebook, and then these privileges were taken away when she did not earn the right grades. So she would share with me, my mom loves me. I got my Facebook privileges back. Miss Karen, my mom doesn't love me because she took my Facebook privileges away. So really look at how your child perceives your consequences. And I did that. And if they sassed back, I would take it away for another day, and I took TV away for a month one time until a psychologist told me 24 hours is the max, right? And then you look at what are the learning lessons that your child is learning when you do these consequences that sometimes are punitive because you are punishing them rather than let them sit with the natural consequence. If they got an F because they chose not to study, or because they got an F, they just didn't see the value of studying, right? And you cannot want the grade more than your child. You cannot want that organization and those good study habits more than your child. And I had a hard time grasping this simple concept because I wanted it so desperately that, you throw out these incentives, you'll get a, whatever treat, or I know a dad who said, I'll give you $20 for every A that you got. Actually, I got paid for my A's. So sometimes I wonder, would I have been highly motivated? I didn't care about learning. I just wanted the cash, right? So when you look at, and I wrote notes because this is such a passionate subject of mine, and it hurts me. It really hurts me when children as young as 8 have sleepless nights because they are worried about their grades. They're worried whether they'll make a mistake in class, or God forbid, on their report card or on a test. So little hint on the praise that you give your children. Do not associate it with a grade, because this is what happens when you go, great job on getting that A. You're reinforcing that their goal should be to get the A, instead of saying, wow, you should be really proud of yourself for all that effort you put in. Do you see the difference? And not, I am proud of you. When you say, I am proud of you, they will continually seek that approval from you, right? Because all kids want their parents to be proud of them. So yes, Deslin Healthiest, my soul sister, said worrying creates fear within them to not perform. And that's one of the things I wanted to share with you, because when you give too much, you add too much pressure, but you think, like, I'm going to give you $100 if you get an A on this next test. What happens is, and I've seen kids go, you know what, I'm going to fail anyway because I can't do this. Or they put so much stress that when they don't, just the mere fear, like Destin said, that mere worry will create anxiety, might create depression, because their entire worth is based on their grades. Think about if your entire worth, and actually some of us do, based on productivity, based on the position that you hold in your company, which is why during the pandemic, when a lot of people lost their jobs, their value, their personal value, their perception, which is a false story they believed, was that they were not good enough, or they just were demoted mentally because they lost their job. So really look at natural consequences, because that's the best way to learn. Too much control hinders development. Too much control really rips your child's self-esteem. And I don't want to seem too harsh, but I've seen so many students who don't believe in themselves because they're told, my mom says that I'm lazy. My dad says that I'm not good at math. My parents say that I'm really disorganized and I have a bad memory. So as someone who's passionate about the brain and just the mental development, I always tell students, that, and parents too, when I, mentor parents, that what you believe, your brain will believe. I had a 5-year-old, I have a bad memory. And I said, but if you tell yourself you have a bad memory, then you won't remember. Your brain will be like, okay, you have a bad memory. We'll go with that, and we'll create situations to prove you to be right. So now it's so cute when they say, I made a mistake, but I told my brain it's okay. Right, Miss Karen? And they look towards me for that, that approval. And all your child wants is to be loved unconditionally. When you provide support by, showing them that you believe in them. And when they're younger, yes, a little bit more hands-on, where you might sit next to them, but I learned the hard way not to double check, not to edit, not to make them make corrections so that they get a higher grade. Because the message is, you need me to make those corrections because you're messing up. So when I see papers, that have 2 out of 10 correct, or some of them is 2 out of 20, and their face drops and they feel like I am really bad. And I remind them, you are not bad. You had a bad grade, but you know what? It has nothing to do with you, because you know how we learn? The more mistakes we make, we learn. And you should see the looks I get, like, what? But the more mistakes you get, the more bad grades you get. And so I explained how a lot of parents, they want the good grades, but how does that make them feel? As young as 5, guys, it makes me a little bit worried, because I might not get the good grade, and then they'll be disappointed in me. Tugs at your heartstrings. So, find the right balance. You guide during the younger years, but if you guide too much, which is not really guiding, then you're kind of like holding the reins, right? And you're really having that control. Studies show that kids will not learn how to regulate emotions and behavior. These are the kids that get so upset when they make a mistake, when they lose a video game, when they get a bad grade, because they really believe they represent the bad grade. They are the F, or they are the C. If you're in a family who, you do not tolerate C's, that's a lot of pressure, because some teachers and professors will give no lower than a C, or they're just really strict graders. And so I always tell, students, is your teacher strict, right? And then explain what that means, and that the grades do not define their worth. You guys have to write this down and say it when you see that bad grade, because I do this when I make a mistake and I'm doing Zoom, and I go, and I say, hey, this is an opportunity to learn. Let's see where we made this mistake, right? So we need to learn when to pull back, right? Encourage mistakes. Jessalyn and I know 2 people, Alexi Katko and Ricky LaCourte, who really encourage mistakes and tell kids that, the gift of failure. I had to reread every book on failure, because I felt responsible for my daughter's grades. I felt responsible for their choices and their behavior. And I'm letting you guys know, we are not responsible for our children's behavior. If they are disrespectful, it doesn't mean that you didn't do a better job in disciplining them. They might be strong-willed, right? They might just not want to follow rules. So that's a separate discussion, a discussion that needs to be, instead of grades, it's social skills, it's rules that we need to follow. And Destin once said, yes, they have a different perspective on failure and mistakes. I think the majority of us do. We don't say, yes, I just lost the job, or yes, I ended a marriage, or I failed royally at, whatever they're trying to accomplish in life. But if we do this one thing and let kids know that it is okay to make mistakes, you should see how difficult it is for me to convince these kids, because they're taught, avoid mistakes, right? We need to do everything to prevent mistakes, because in order to get into a good college, in order to get a scholarship, in order to get all these accolades, you must strive for perfection. I have a 14-year-old, and she said, Miss Karen, I realized the 2 things that cause me most stress is the need to strive for perfection and caring about what other people think. And that bad grade, when other people know about it, it crushes their self-esteem. So parental over-engagement, I thought that's what it is. Parental over-engagement, when you're too engaged, it actually harms their ability to regulate emotions as adults, or just to, handle struggles. Because if your self-esteem is determined by grades, if you're, you just create actually a codependency, because you need to constantly receive praise to make sure, hey, I'm good because I'm getting good grades. So what happens if they study really hard and they get an F or a D, or they really strive for that A? I have some kids who go, I'm getting an 88, but, I'm telling myself it's okay. Well, guess what? I got a 72. And what I am trying to teach is, don't let the numbers, the scores dictate your value. So stepping in too frequently. I am guilty of that. It does create an unhealthy codependence, right? Where children will, really lack self-confidence. I have a little short story regarding I think she was 7. I tutored her. And she said, I'm not allowed to turn in my work unless my parents double check it. So she had 2 piles at home. The assignments that needed to be checked, and then after they're checked, they're put in the other pile, ready to turn in. She got in so much trouble when she put some assignments in the ready to turn in without her parents checking every single question, every single problem, because they wanted her to turn in a perfect paper. So I was reminded of this the other night. I told a mom, okay, the only, problem he needs to correct is number 6. And, we went over it, and she said, I'm going to turn it in the way it is. I'm not one of those parents who just obsesses about grades. It's turned in, it's completed, and you know what? If it's incomplete, I'd rather him not stress out, get enough sleep, and enjoy his evening because he has school tomorrow. And I said, thanks for the reminder, because I get into, my academic hat, and it's like, okay, let's edit this paper. Oh, maybe you should, rephrase it this way. So lately, I'm letting them turn it in. It is so hard when I see grammar errors and punctuations, but I tell them, you don't have to correct it. But next time maybe you can be aware of the verb tense, or maybe you can use stronger adjectives, but really let them know that they are doing an incredible job no matter what. And that's Declan's message. Always, you are worthy no matter what. Your grades, right, do not define you. That's a hard one, because society teaches us to praise the kids who have high grades, who get scholarships, who are the valedictorians. So on your report card, I don't know if you look at your child's report card in high school, it'll tell you what number they are. So suppose Milani has about 600, right? 600 students. You find out you're number 595, and then someone finds out that they're number 3. Well, depending on your child's self-esteem, right? I have kids that go, I don't care if I'm the last, and I like that mentality, because they know that it doesn't matter where they stand in their class. But, when you find these teachable moments, and I catch myself, thank you so much. I need to remember that it's just the effort. And if they don't want to give the effort, some kids, right, parents, all I want you to do is study and just try your best. But sometimes the kids tell me, you know what, Miss Karen, my best is not good enough for my parents. So define what best is, because you cannot enforce academic responsibility on your child. And that is tough. If a kid doesn't want to do their work, they're not going to do it. You can threaten them, and they'll do it out of reluctance, and they'll do it to avoid punishment, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or some carrot that they want. If you want to go to this concert, if you want to, play video games this weekend, you need to, and it's a fine line between, consequences and enforcing it, because, you do want to provide incentives, but you do not want those incentives to, make the child define their worth. And that's why I think, because I told myself, my dad wasn't responsible for my suicide attempt. And he told my friend, I didn't teach her to lose. And I thought, to lose doesn't necessarily mean to play games and lose. Although I don't like playing games. Why? Because I don't like to lose. So I have to work on that, But I was praised for getting A's. I was paid for getting A's. And I liked getting that approval from teachers and peers. And it made becoming an adult difficult, because if I had a bad review, I worked at McDonald's, had the worst review ever. They actually numbered us in order of the top employee and the bottom, and I was the bottom. So can you imagine? All my life, I've been told to strive for the best. Try, achieve, accomplish, and just ride that ladder so that you can feel proud of yourself. I know a lot of parents, well, some of you might not might not agree with me, but seeing the suicide attempts, seeing the, oh my gosh, I had a 7-year-old yesterday. I just want to die. And he kind of giggled, but I said, why? Because I don't want to do homework. I hate homework. And I thought, for them to choose death over homework, there's got to be something to make a child even think that death is better than homework, right? Think about that. So I think it is creating a fun opportunity to learn. Make learning fun. That's what I've been learning maybe the past 5 years, okay? Brain Builders will celebrate 23rd birthday, right, in August. But I've been teaching for about 28 years. And I learned the hard way that it is not the objective. My goal is not to make sure they reach these academic objectives. My goal is to make learning fun, to really let them be curious about learning, and not to see homework as a horrible, horrible task. I usually tell kids who hate homework, say, I am so sorry, I get it. Is homework boring? Yes. Is homework like the worst thing in the world? Some kids think it's the worst thing in the world. But as an adult, you're going to have to do laundry, take out the trash, do all these chores, file your taxes, and you're not going to want to do it. But it's a great opportunity to have a discussion, right? Why? Why do we have to do things we don't want to do? So that's my little, I didn't even say anything about, I didn't go through all of my notes, but just real quick, develop trust. Develop trust in your kids. And if they bring home a bad grade, say, you know what? It's okay. They'll be like, what? But try this new approach. It's okay, because grades are not everything. But be prepared for a child to say, but that's what we've been focusing on. You always tell me, to get A's and B's, or to, if I want to get into a good college, if I want to be successful. And I always, promote someone that I adore, and he gives me permission to share how he is the only one without a college education in his department, maybe in the company, that he doesn't have a college education, and he's an engineer. It's kind of funny. We think it's funny that he's a sales engineer doing stuff that he would never have imagined. I look at his 3 monitors and think, this is a guy who barely graduated from high school. And he said academics weren't a priority, and he regrets that. But I love hearing stories like that. So if you want stories like this, I encourage you to watch Ricky LaCorte's interview on my YouTube channel, Letting Go with Aloha. I'm having another interview coming up who's also inspiring, a rap singer who really is the epitome of overcoming struggles, especially when you are diagnosed as special needs and you overcome every obstacle and you do not let anything get in the way because you want to. Okay, so that's my closing message, is your children need to develop that desire to learn, that desire to achieve. And if it's not going to be fun, they're not going to want to do it. I know the kids who love learning and then they automatically get the good grades, but they know that it doesn't define them. They have fun. If they accidentally do, suppose you only have to do odds, right, for math, but they end up making a mistake and do evens instead, they're like, hey, I got more practice. I thought, I want to bottle that. That mindset where homework is an opportunity to learn, to practice. So don't contact the teachers too often. Don't double check homework. Don't ask about test scores. And if you do, just do it gently, or don't make it all about what did you get on that test score? When is your project due? Is your backpack ready for tomorrow? Because kids struggle. Kids will struggle regulating emotions and behavior. And had I known this, I would have been a totally different parent. They also have trouble with impulse control because they were, always this helicopter hovering always was more important than letting your child, let them go, let them fall, let them get the bad grades, because it's a safe environment, right? Once they leave your nest and they don't know how to embrace failure and they get fired, this is where, I don't know if you guys remember the Xerox, the worker who ended up shooting a lot of employees because he was upset that he got fired, or people who just are unable to regulate their emotions. It all stems back from what we parents do to emphasize. Are we going to emphasize social skills, being kind, being empathetic, or, and I get that because I was there, are we going to emphasize the importance of earning high grades, the importance of making sure that you choose a profession that provides you with a financially set future? There's a lot of ways to build that financial, security without the pressure of getting good grades. So thank you guys for listening. I am so excited. Today through Friday, Thomas and I are going to the Four Seasons. Shout out and thank you to Nadine, who doesn't watch, she doesn't go on social media, but she is a soul sister, and she is someone who granted us this wonderful discounted rate. So we are going to be off grid. I'm sure I'm going to be posting stuff, but I'm going to focus on being present. If you don't see as many, actually my stories and my posts might just be the resort and the fun stuff we'll do. But keep in mind, right, it's Wednesday. Whenever you find yourself wanting to say, so how did that homework go? And I do that with my students, but I always make sure grades don't matter. Just curious. Do you have any questions? How do you feel? I do that a lot. How are you feeling? Oh, I'm so stressed. Over what? And I'm learning to just listen without judging or lectures, which Deslin always reminds me to do. And I fail a lot, but I apologize and try again, which is what life is all about, right? So keep trying, keep loving your children unconditionally, and be mindful of, any stress that you unknowingly give your kids, because there's so much stress in real life as adults. So, I always tell kids, enjoy the teen years, enjoy being a kid, because I think it's just too overwhelming for them to experience so much stress over grades, right? Think about it. Please comment and let me know if there's any topics you want me to cover. And next week, for my 100th Facebook Live Wednesday, I'm having a special guest. So stay tuned and have a wonderful Wednesday. Bye.